Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you step by step, fully broken down, how you can paint this gorgeous, this is funny, John. On the mic is my husband, John. He helps me bring you these lessons. The Blue Tit. So, I don't know, the 9-year-old in me cannot help but snigger. But that is what it's called, so that's what we're painting today.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully the algorithms will not tag us for correctly using the bird's ornithology name, I think. So maybe it's his common name. I don't know. I'm not a bird watcher, but this is what we're painting today, and it's based on a really fabulous group of birds that are yellow and blue, which are like the colors of the coast of France, so I just love them. Today, if you're very, very new to the class, be sure and check out Watercolor Wednesday and You. It's an introductory blog that kind of answers some of those first questions you might have about the materials I'm recommending, colors, things like that, and gives you some workarounds if you don't have exactly what I have, which you probably don't, and that's okay. I just want you to know right now, right off the bat, it's okay if you have something different than what I have. You can have your own stuff. Does that seem pretty good with everybody?
I think so, yes.
All right, so here's the original that I did. I did this with my patrons. Every once in a while I get with my patrons, and I riff on art, and they want me to come up with ideas, so they've kind of already seen this be created in this weird way, but now we're going to create it in a very organized manner. This is, if you paint acrylic with me, this pretty one is a good, I don't know if you can see it to the side, is a good painting to do. It's over on my acrylic channel, and it shows you how to do watercolor techniques with acrylic paint, so you can paint a lot. You will need the 140-pound watercolor paper to make that work, but, you know, outside of that, you can use all your regular tools just fine. I'm going to show you real quick how to make this work. I work on a 9x12.
Hold on, I gotta put things back.
I work on a 9x12 watercolor block. I tell you guys this every time because you might be your first time here, and this is important for you to know if you're new to painting watercolor. You can flub brushes, you can flub paints for a bit of time and still be okay, but watercolor paper is sort of everything. As a beginner, the biggest problem that you'll have is this sort of warping in your paper, which is, it's what happens is the paper, as it gets wet, it makes little waves. You can pre-stretch your paper, you can tape your paper down, but the best thing and easiest thing to do is this thing called a watercolor block. So what you need to know, 140 pounds, cold press. I like cold press. If you don't like bumpy, get hot press. That means smooth. 140 pound, 9x12 watercolor block. Brand I like is Fabriano. There are other good brands like Strathmore does a pretty good paper. So, you know, okay, and so there's some other brands of paper, but if you get those core things, it will help a lot, your experience. Because most of what goes weird in your new painting is that paper. Now I'm going to take a artist knife. This isn't specialty. And what this is all the sheets of paper are glued together. I'm demoing this because every once in a while I get a bunch of questions. And how do you get the sheet off? This is how you do it. You could use a box cutter, but here's the problem with the box cutter.
They can cut off course.
They can cut the paper.
Yeah, it's better to use a little palette knife or
and if the paper gives you any resistance as you're going, which it will sometimes on one end, like the spine or something, just depending on how thick they got the compounding medium, you go the opposite direction. That's how you remove the sheet. Just in case you needed to know that, you can go paint that on my channel if you're doing acrylic as watercolor, and that's how you would paint today's lesson if you didn't want to go out and buy watercolors.
I feel like there needs to be a do.
The
more you know.
The more you know. The more you know, the better experience you have when you're painting. I've missed you guys so much.
And knowing is half the battle.
So we have our fresh, ready-to-go paper. What if you don't draw? I have a traceable on my website. It's Pattern. You can download it. You can follow my how to use a traceable. Those instructions are on the blog. And I have a video for that if you like the Art Sherpa how to trace. It'll pop right up for you. I am using a very small palette today, but I want you to know I'm using the brands Core, Daniel Smith, and L'Aquarelle by Sennelier. Those are the brands that I'm using. If you're having any problems with your watercolor, I can definitely recommend those 3 brands to give you a really good result. I'm going to be using a color called Quinacridone Gold. It's a lot like burnt sienna. It's a rusty brown. I'm going to be using burnt umber. It's a brown. I'm going to be using Hansa yellow. It's just a really bright, cheerful yellow. Pyrrole Red. It's just a very red, like a sunset red. Quinacridone Magenta, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, and some Payne's Gray to create this. I'm using a variety of brushes. I really dig the Aqua Softs by Raphael. They're amazing, and they act like natural hair, but there is no natural hair in them. So they're imitation squirrel. No squirrel was harmed in the making of these brushes, and so that's pretty cool. Squirrel harm brushes, though, that I also use are my Jasper Stardust brushes. You can find him on Instagram, and he takes a Skoda brushes and turns them into these pretty little brushes, and I like to use them too. These are a little bit of money, though. So good gift for an artist in your life, but a little bit of investment. Do you need those magic wand brushes? No, you don't. You're okay. And to sketch in, I'm going to be using the Cretacolor Graphite Aquarelle, which just means it's a pencil that's water soluble. Do we have the deets? I don't have the chat, so usually John gives me the chat somewhere. And
I was reading it.
Were you reading the chat? Because I missed everybody. I saw some names. I gave my text out early. We do our own text. And I sometimes, my glasses are invisible because they're green. Hi, Phyllis and Angela and Tammy, Karen and Brenda. So that's who I'm seeing. I see Linda and Angela Maxwell and Yamini. So good to see you, Yamini. All right. Are you guys ready to paint this adorable bird? Let's talk a little bit about the plan. So we have this nice background that we're going to do, which is very wet into wet. That means my paper is going to be wet, and I'm going to be painting a wet loaded brush into it. But I also want to know where my bird is because that needs to stay kind of white. Watercolor is very transparent for the most part, so you need to have a plan about where your color is going to go. You can layer color, but only in the ideas of transparent glaze. So it won't work like acrylic for you. You really have to think about what areas you need to preserve because like this yellow isn't going to paint over a red or a blue. I have to have that paper white. So that's why I sketch in ahead of time. Now, I'm going to come over here from the right-hand side. And here's what. Guys, I hate to tell you that to sketch on watercolor, you want it to be light. And that makes it just a misery for John to capture on the camera. So you can see what I'm doing and be sketching in at this time or applying the traceable.
Let me see. We'll look at sketching.
You know, one of the things I can tell you when doing birds is I weirdly like to place a leg. I like to give them the legs first. Yamini's like, hey, Sherpa. Oh, Linda's like, I can't watch all, but I'm listening at work. Shh, Linda, shh. Thank you. What are the names of the brushes? So these are Aqua Soft by Raphael, and the really pretty ones are by an artist named Jasper Stardust. Linda is like besties. Linda Coney in there that you see her, she's besties with him. She has all those deets. She's like his #1 collector. So honestly, more of an expert than I am at this point on that artist, those brushes. But I did find him first, so props to me. I'm going to set these feet first. And this little birdie's got kind of a little jaunty stance.
Let's see.
I'm going to make a little line that's, oh gosh, at an angle about 1 inch long. And a little counterposing line at an angle and about 1 inch long. And that lets me kind of think about his little leg. And I'm going to fluff out a little feather here to say, oh my goodness, there's a little leg there. Now, when I know where the legs are, I know he's got a little breast that's going to come forward. And little bum that comes out. And we've got a little tail that's going to come off back. When you get used to doing these little guys, you kind of get a sense of how their body balances them. So the best way to get better at drawing, I'm afraid, is just draw every day a little bit. Draw a little bit every day. Warm up in the day. That's how everybody do it. It really is. Everybody draw. Now you can do something like drawing on the right side of the brain to give yourself an easier time with it. I'm going to make a little beak. And I want to make sure I give them a little serious jawline here. Now, what I love about these guys is they have kind of this little brow and a very serious little head that comes back. It's like a little bit of like they got a furrow there.
I'm going to make you smaller so I can show them the reference photo.
Okay, that's very good. And those are for you on the website. I put those in the event. You can find those a bunch of different places. I don't expect you to have this memorized. And so that is something that's always provided for free to you. There aren't hidden costs in this experience. I'm listening at work too, says Tammy Pickett. And Karen's like, I need the reference. So you're going to notice there's some changes with some of us YouTubers in regards to reference photos, which we will not be able to just distribute references unless we get them direct from photographers anymore because the licensing sites have changed the rules significantly. So I can tell you what I did is I went and just looked at a bunch of little blue tits and I looked at a bunch of berry branches and I just worked this one out. But you can use my painting as your reference. And then what I would always do is also use reference photos of blue tits. Mm-hmm. Be careful on that safe search. I got to tell you, this bird's the funniest one to paint because when you put that in, you get a really weird set of results if you don't have safe search on. Add the word bird as a modifier. Trust me on this. Just don't risk it. Just go bird. I do not need to know what else your internet has for me in any way. All right. So really, it's a very simple sketch of him. Can you guys see that there? When I shade it, sometimes you guys can see it.
Yeah, when
it's
you shade
light,
it,
it's simple.
It's very light.
And I don't really have a lot of this branch, right? I don't need a lot of the branch. You don't want a lot of the branch. I need enough of the branch to kind of know where it goes, but I'm going to be,
Oh, there's Patty.
Hi, hello. Patty. How are you?
We have a full house of folks today.
They missed us because we were gone a minute. For us, not for regular YouTubers, but for us, we were gone a long time.
We were on an extended holiday.
Yeah, we did, man. I
think we didn't look at the channel for almost 2 weeks. Yeah,
I really just wasn't really that much online. I took a social media break, and you advise it to your kids. You gotta live, you gotta walk the walk and talk the talk, all the things. Maybe it's the opposite of that. If you talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. I did the talking and the walking, is what I'm saying to you.
Yes.
Karen, no, it's okay. Sorry, reference painting. But if you guys see less references in general with me, with Angela and stuff like that, it's because of all that weirdness that's out there now. So I will try to always make sure you guys have reference paintings. So there we are. This is what he is. He's cute. That was fun. Let's wet our paper.
You can shade him again.
Now, you could use a quill, right? Like this is a big chunky quill. Look at this. It's a big squirrel quill. This is real squirrel. And this is kind of synthetic squirrel. And you can kind of see a little difference in the making of the brush, right?
Yes.
You can use, this is a synthetic squirrel. So you can use a bigger brush. What you want is something that will hold some water and will let you wet out the paper.
They prefer to be known as robot squirrels.
Robot squirrels?
Uh-huh. I have it on very good
authority.
Very good authority. They prefer robot squirrels to synthetic squirrels overall.
Now, I'm taking this brush. This is just nice 18. These brush numbers, I'm going to tell them to you, but I want you to know, secret of the brush industry if you're new to painting, brush numbers mean nothing. Very disturbing when you realize how little brush numbers mean. You're like, wait, what? I've really held on to that as a whoopee my whole painting career. What do you mean they don't mean anything?
And then, arbitrarily, you find another side of the art industry that numbers mean everything.
Right. But not uniformly and not always in every brush line together.
And definitely not approaching anything that it looks like a mathematically thought out formula.
No, because you're thinking millimeters, aren't you?
Oh, no.
Some of them are millimeters. Some of the European companies absolutely do measure them in millimeters and will tell you those things. But for the most part, nah.
Pigment codes. That's an arbitrary set of numbers.
Okay. So here I am. I'm going to continue on with this brush, and how I get this background technique is sort of a lot of fun. I'm going to get my brush wet, and I'm going to load up a good amount of, let's start with some Ultramarine Blue.
Okay.
And I'm going to do, so the paper's wet, and I'm making little brushy marks. Look at my little brushy marks.
Brushy marks.
They're brushy. It's almost a dry brush into a wet paper. Isn't that cool?
It is.
And then the wet paper, what it does is it softens those marks in places, and then when they go out to paper that's dry, look, they become hard. That's a really cool technique.
It's a very, very light thing, so hold on a second.
Is the painting light? Can you zoom in? You're going to stun hand? All right, so John's going to make adjustments. We do make adjustments into the cameras and things when we're live, just in case something isn't really working out how we want, because we have cameras. One of the tricks here is I use Phthalo Blue in the Blue Tit Bird, and I'm going to get content smacked. I don't care. You can see I'm just softening there. Sometimes if you've had the heater running or your fireplace running, your paper will dry out a little quicker than you would want. So you may have to wet areas before you come in, and that's okay. Just so you know, you're okay. Trying to just keep the areas of the bird that are going to be light and retained light, not dark. And here's another thing. If you get too much pigment in an area where you wouldn't want it, you can always come up and lift it with a paper towel or a sponge. Very liftable. All right, there we go.
There we go.
This is beautiful because it's got that nice.
Man, I gotta shrink the reference down.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going along. That's the technique. You can use, if you don't have a watercolor brush like this and you have it in an acrylic, you can use it. You could also like take your round brush and kind of split it open with your little fingers, split it open. So you've got ways to get here. You're not trapped. A little bit of ultramarine. And see, we're just doing this around. It's very light, and I love it because it feels sort of energetic as we go. With watercolor, it's easier to darken and harder to lighten, right? So that's why you go in these like light little glazy values and then add up as you can.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get a little of my pink on here. Maybe add some little bits of pink. Isn't that pretty?
That is.
And because it's wet paper into the dry paper, you get these beautiful variable textures.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, so nice. Who doesn't want a little of that? I don't know who they are. Maybe they don't. Maybe there's someone. And Ultramarine and Quinacridone Magenta, and you'll see this week is Thursday. I'm going to show you how to do it. But basically, sneak peek, Perry's made with Ultramarine and Quinacridone Magenta and a little bit of white if you're doing color of the year. So this is also true in watercolor if you're wondering, Thursday, will this work with my watercolors? Yes, exactly will. So still going. You build up, you know. You build up so you can come in darker.
This is one of those times when I was totally reading and not paying attention to what you said.
What did I say?
I don't know. Did you tell them about grass combs?
No.
Okay, good.
But you could use a grass comb here.
Oh, good.
Grass comb would work really well in this technique. Absolutely would do. Now I'm going to take one of my round brushes. I'll go ahead and take a Jasper Stardust because it's been a minute. And I'm going to make sure that this area is a little wet. And the reason I want it to be a little bit wet, not totally soaked, but a little bit wet, is that I'm going to do some distant little kind of berries. First I'm going to get a little yellow on my brush. See that? Loading up from the edge. And we're going to allow some little bits of yellow spots to be bleeding into somewhat this area. It's too wet, you just lift up. Maybe I'll put some down here. Sometimes it's nice to take, because the bird is a spot of yellow, sometimes it's nice to take a couple of places and add a color. You'll find a lot of times the yellow pigments will move things and that the water coming in will push the pigment and create this kind of like little edge here. When you don't want it, it's a misery. When you do want it, it's lovely. I'm going to get my Pyrrole Red, which is my reddest red. Maybe mix a little of my Quinacridone Magenta into it. This red is the equivalent of the cad red. It is not cadmium, but it is like cadmium. And I'm going to just loosely kind of imply maybe there's some out of focus little berries in the background here, you know? Distant little fellows. They're little fuzzy. We're looking at them through winter.
Mm.
I can even sort of tap and drop and create some little interest areas. A little quinacridone, a little red, and just push those through. So these are the out of focus berries. We'll come back with some dark red berries, right?
Yeah.
We will, but it's okay to put a little out of focus berry in the world there. Not all your berries need to be in focus. I can move the brush around really randomly. This is a very lightly pigmented wash. Not a lot of pigment in the brush. That's how I control how light or dark my paint is how much pigment I have in the brush. If a lot of pigment, it's much darker, more saturated.
You know, There's a good question here.
Hmm.
Connie was asking if we have watercolor pencils, could we do this in a similar fashion?
Yep. Watercolor pencils are, one, they can work right onto wet paper, right?
Yeah.
So you could be like, you could even come in and like imply some loosely drawn berries, perhaps.
Ooh.
I don't know, I'm just playing here. And don't forget that you can come onto a watercolor pencil and pull pigment right off of it. So a lot of ways. And remember, you can color on the paper like so, and then come back with water. So you've got a lot of ways to work it and play with it. Just relax, just breathe, just get them tools out and have fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes watercolor pencils are not as pigmented as, say, the tube paints. That doesn't matter. You're still learning the techniques. You're still getting what you need out of the lesson. I'm going to come back. This is looking nice. It's softening. I'm going to come back. And I want some darker ultramarine blue. Just some depth. Sometimes you need some depth. Mr. Bird says, give me some depth, some richness. That's really good for me. That makes me super happy. So you can kind of see that gives us just a little personality in the background, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Remember, there's this color shift that happens in watercolor where it can get lighter, and if you want to lighten up, look, you can come back with your paper towel or sponge. A lot of people really like a sponge. I really like a sponge too. Just don't have one out here. So there we go. Now you're seeing the buckling in the paper. See that buckling? It still happens on the block. What happens on a block is that as it dries, it will stretch it flat. Right? And you can sometimes see that happen during the live lesson. Sometimes I'll get the paper so wet it'll happen in the hours after the live lesson. But that's why my sheets are so flat and ready to frame at the end, because they're stretched. What brand watercolor pencils recommended? Just one. Cran d'Ache. A lot of people love Darwin. A lot of people have other ones that they love. But I love the little folks over at Cran d'Ache. They're Swedish. Swiss. And they're funny. And they make really amazing precision instruments and are great. Just great. And they love artists, and I just love them. So Cran d'Ache. Holy. And the ones that are really great are the, let me get my good ones, are the Super Color 2 soft ones. And you'll know that these are the water soluble because they'll have the little brush on there. And you may need to, the pencils themselves can be a bit of a sticker shock. So look at eBay. Look for sale, look for a moment, look for a garage sale. It's doable. So just know that that's possible too. Oh, Ashley's bringing it up. Sometimes if it's very cheap, the pencil will leave lines behind. Yeah, because the lead is too hard. You want a soft lead that really releases the pigment. Tina's like, I'm glad you're back. It feels like forever. It felt like forever for me too. I was like, I missed you all. And it was very hard not to work. My family was like, this is crazy. This is the longest you've ever gone. My kids kept going, no work today? I'm like, no work today. And they were like, for real? I'm like, yeah, for real. Okay, so now this is all starting to dry around Mr. Fuzzbum. If the area around the branch is dry enough, you can go in there. If it's not, you can then make a decision to work inside Mr. Birdie Pants. Mr. Birdie Pants is going to start with a very light yellow. And we begin with the lightest of yellows for reasons. Mostly those reasons are because you can always darken, but it's difficult to lighten color, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So if I start very light, and I'm thinking already about where am I going to leave white paint, where am I going to do that, I can get a much better result. And I've got this wonderful belly on him that's super yellow. So why not play now? There's a little bit kind of coming down his back. It's a bit green, but I can kind of start putting a little yellow into that now.
Mm-hmm.
And then come back and glaze green. Now let's, as we move forward, maybe I'm loading a lot more yellow in there. Look at that go. He's just so bright.
Yeah, he is.
Just so bright. First moments. And that really, doing that really let some stuff dry here, right? So I can kind of come in and be like, hey, branch, I want some branch. So I'm going to pull out a little bit of my burnt umber, wet it into my round brush. This is, you know, if you were using the Aquasoft, you could be using this brush, anything between an 8 and a 14. And on this one, I think it's, in this line, it's a 12. Again, everybody has a different size. But Linda's got the expertise on the Jasper Stardust, which I haven't used in a while, and I just felt like getting it out. Because they're kind of like magic. I thought I'd kick off this 2022 year with a little bit of magical, my favorite magical tools.
Yeah.
Because I don't want no nonsense from this year. I'm tired, and it needs to get better. So that's what's happening. But it's like, okay.
Now, can you review your colors one more time?
Absolutely. Quinacridone Gold, kind of like burnt sienna, rust brown. Burnt umber, very brown. Hansa yellow medium, it's just a bright, vibrant yellow. Pyrrole Red, it's just a vibrant, warm red. Quinacridone Magenta, that magenta pink. Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue. Payne's Gray. Now I'm kind of putting in some maybe light twigs that are sort of distant. They're out of focus, right?
Yeah.
And that'll happen when things are, you know, nearer us. I like to give some weird little round. Notice that I give some round lines to it. Very sketchy. It's fun for me to get on the toe of the brush and be sketchy.
Yeah.
You know, I might come down and I curve that line a bit. And it's all right to have little zigs and breaks in it. You're not going to get it wrong. It's going to be okay. Just pull those out. Just a little bit of lining coming out. All right. Rosie, how are you doing? It has been forever, Rosie. I have missed you too. And loving my hair. Thank you very much. I got a little closer into the fiery sunset that I was going for, so I think we've nailed it for a minute. I'm feeling pretty proud of it. I'm going to get into my Quinacridone Gold. You can see that there. See how rust colored that is? Very burnt sienna, but just a little more vibrant. I want to put that into some areas of my branches. Just think it's nice. So I kind of come along what I've already done. A little bit more color. Yeah. And you can bring these up because they're a little more saturated, so they seem more forward. Maybe some distant little twigs here that could be holding some berries that are going on. You never know. I can get right into my Payne's Gray down here. And I'm going to take a little of my burnt umber, but I haven't rinsed out my brush. It's okay that they're all on there together. I don't mind. Bring some darker little twigs up there. A little more personality in them. A little more artful. put little pops of dark value. I think that always kind of makes branches seem more interesting when there's little areas of depth. You'll notice that I really kind of try to curve my twigs a bit, give a little bend to them. They're not straight, they're not orderly, they're a little bit all over the place. Now, for those of you that are on TikTok, does anybody know if it's a bones day? Because I didn't check today. It's been kind of weirding me out. I feel like he's been behind on posting, and I just don't know how to proceed with my day. All right, look at that. We've got some branch happening. Just light, watery little branch. It's just woo, I'm branching it.
It is.
Just branchy. I'm letting him have kind of a moment here.
So he can develop.
And I'm going to take a little bit of my Ultramarine Blue and my Payne's Gray and paint it up a little more. It's even more of a pain. And I'm going to come into the beak. Still using the same brush. Aren't that great? Remember, I can remove anything I'm not happy with using that paper towel at the stage where it's like wet. And come here around the eye. I know this eye is going to be like dark. We're going to put some little dark feathers going back. And then there's a little dark feathers going down the chin. They do. I might get a little more of my darker gray. And come under the beak a bit. A little more dark gray. Bring it up the forward. What? What'd I do?
Sorry, I had it muted because I was stretching, and I read Don's comment. You should.
Where?
The purple D.
Purple D. Don Walsh. My husband said I have an issue. Not only am I watching the live, I'm watching the tutorial on my TV while painting a whole different picture. Woo! Multitasking. 2022. Don's got it. She's multitasking. She's living her best life. She is being girl boss.
She's setting the new bar.
She's setting the new bar.
Expectation. You got to be able to. No, it's not.
I'm adding a little gray down into the feet.
That's awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Our high five, Don.
Best life, best life. All right, so we're getting it there. I have let the gray up here calm a bit. In other words, it's not totally dry, but it's dry-ish. So what that means is that I can come back with some darker colors. And add a little depth to it. Now here, where I did this gray, I'm going to try to control it. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm putting my vision enhancers on. Why struggle? My friends, why struggle?
Because you chose green glasses.
I mean, I have an invisible face now. It's fine.
It's like,
I'm not sorry. I'm not sad.
How can I make John's job harder today? Oh, I know. I'll wear green. And not just a uniform green, just like splatters of it so I have holes in my head. I'll wear green jewelry, green gems, so you'll the sparkle holes in my head.
You're not frustrated with the sparkle holes, are you?
I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny because it's like, am I? It's just.
Now I'm going to get into my Phthalo Blue. A little bit of my Phthalo Blue. And again, it's sort of a wash, isn't it? And let's pull up a little bit of the crust here. It's not our full blue, but it's blue. We're going to come back with more blue, but right now this is the blue that we're going to want to get.
Yeah, you guys have no idea. There are times where she'll come downstairs and she'll be wearing like a green shirt with a Grinch on it, and she'll be like, "Okay, let's go." And I'm like, "That's a cool shirt." She goes, "Yeah, I know, it's the Grinch." And I'm like, "And what color is the Grinch?" And she'll go, "Green." "Oh, sorry." And then go back upstairs and change. So,
ever wonder why we're late sometimes? Wardrobe malfunction. Deborah, thank you so much. First, what? Love it. It's a Deborah party. It's a Deborah party. Let's all say thank you to Deborah at the Deborah party. Just getting that nice little wash there. Now I can come in with like a little bit of yellow green together. Right here, right? Because he's got, the back is a little bit yellow and green, and so I can just come back and be like, hey, let's put a little splash of that color. And if I want to be interesting, I might add a little of my Quinacridone Gold. And I do want to be interesting. I don't want to be not interesting.
There's some good, here, I'll let you read this one too.
Okay. To come back using the edge of my brush to kind of create those feather shapes on that wing and pull in that directionality. What am I reading?
I think it's Nula.
Nula, Christ says, I was watching Dark Shadows and Alice Cooper saying no more Mr. Nice Guy. So when Cinnamon said she wanted no nonsense coming 2222, I heard that tune in my head and switched it to Mr. Nonsense. I like that. And also, Dark Shadows, fantastic. Like, that just hit Netflix again, and you just forget how amazing Johnny Depp was in that. It was just so funny. And Michelle Pfeiffer was a really good movie. We teach art here, though, so I'm going to keep going. Oh, thank you, Heather C. I appreciate it so much. So you can see he's very light here, right? He's just like a kiss of a bird. He's the beginning of a bird. He's not the whole bird yet. I'm going to take a little of my blue and gray and kind of very lightly, so lightly, I might even pick some of the color up out of this. Add a little bit of shadow right here into where the yellow is. Sometimes I'll come down and I'll get a little of my yellow and some, it's like almost a gray, right? Gray green, because when you do yellow and black, it makes green. Well, yellow and Payne's gray kind of also makes a green. A little bit of gray there, because we know that needs to be under. And a little bit of pink.
So many peoples in so many places today.
So many people in so many places, and we're ready for it. We're ready for everything to be like happening and good, right? I come in with a little bit of yellow. It's so bright, this yellow. Be a little bit bright right there. Let's make sure that coming back on the tail is a bit bright. Little spots of bright. And we're going to let that have a rest and think about what it's done.
All right.
And then we're going to go get our Pyrrole and our Quinacridone, and then we're just going to draw little berries. They're just sort of circles. Don't be too worried about it.
And
it's a long and busy process. I can add
it's fun to see
like Hansa yellow into it and get some kind of orange berries going.
The indirect pop culture impact you have on folks.
How do you mean?
Well, everyone's celebrating The Witcher is awesome. And
The Witcher is awesome.
And then Irene's like, I started watching Yellowstone.
I'm so sorry, Irene. Are you okay? Again, beautiful, well-written, fully realized characters, amazing storyline. A lot of animal violence. And I didn't realize that was my weird... I watch horror movies, but apparently that's my threshold. You know what I realized, like, watching that? I had, like, kind of that think back to the past. I realized that if anything had happened to Ripley's cat, I wouldn't have liked Aliens, the movie. If that cat hadn't made it out, would not have been okay for me. You can bring your animals into space, but don't you let nothing happen to them.
And you just expect everyone to know what cat you're talking about.
Well, I mean, all right. There was a movie called Alien starring Sigourney Weaver, and in the first one, there was a cat. I think you knew, but John's not sure you knew, so.
It was in the second one. There was aliens.
Oh, what's my thought on masking fluid and what's the best kind and how do you use it? Long explanation on how to use it. We've demoed it, but the best kind is the ultimate masking liquid. It's online. I should have it in the links. My mods should be able to drop you a link. They have amazing instructions that come with the product. It is the most forgiving, least temperamental of all the masking fluids, in my opinion, of which I have apparently a pretty strong one. Sometimes I come back with more red because I'm like, I need a redder berry.
YouTube's like, is someone trying to like be not so nice?
Where?
It auto-held Carol's
Sorry, Carol.
She said, "Hello all, just checking out the lovely Blue Tit." and YouTube was like, they're not saying something nice. I told YouTube it was okay.
And I knew that when I did this, I was snickering like a kid, but I was like, man, the algorithm is going to get us.
Oh, for sure. this is algorithmically doomed. Although I did say everyone showed up to see the Blue Tit.
It's going to get so suppressed, this video. Today, who's watching it will be all that will ever see it because YouTube's algorithm is going to be like all over it. No.
You cannot say tit that many times in a video.
Which is a bird, YouTube. It's a bird.
Bird.
A bird. I wonder if it's going to be grabbed not suitable for ads. What I like is when they grab something that's super innocuous and set it for not suitable for ads because I have enough view hours to get the person that has to review it. I get a person review. So somebody's got to watch it and be like, oh, dang it, it's a bird. Eventually, on my acrylic channel, eventually they just whitelisted me.
And so what we have to make sure is we don't mix the dirty bird words because you could probably get away with a bird and one dirty word. But I mean, you start mixing them.
And then you're in trouble.
Then I think it fully, the algorithm goes, no.
Kim's like, we're all getting mammograms. Get your mammogram. It's very good for you. Yes, mammograms. Healthy for your tatas. And remember, tomorrow we have a lesson over on the acrylic channel. We're going to mix the color of the year and some other Pantone colors too, just to get back in the groove of things. And then we have a lesson this weekend. I haven't decided what I'm doing Sunday or if I'm doing Sunday yet, but hard to get back to work. You know what I'm saying? Not that I don't love it. I love it. It's my favorite, but there's a rhythm. Just making a nice little arrangement of the berries.
Amy was suggesting a pronunciation change that I don't know if it would just make it worse. I think if we tried to go British, the system might just go, nope, we're canceling the stream.
All right. So those berries look pretty good. Let's take a look at how that's gone. How's that gone? Joni Simmons Johnson says, hi, everyone. Is the 2022 watercolor paint list the same as the 2021 list? I have not changed the colors. The only difference that I see coming in is that I may be adding yellow ochre to the acrylic palette and possibly the watercolor palette. I missed yellow ochre. All 2021, everywhere. I missed it deeply. I was like, oh, I can mix it, but as a convenience color, it's so super convenient.
You know what the
it's
color?
so super convenient. And I might put a vote on the thing, like if we add Quin Red or Opera Pink to the acrylic channel, I might put a vote. But if we add colors, past yellow ochre, we'll vote on it. We'll be like a team. We'll do it together. Yeah, John?
You're doing this year's color of the year, right?
Yes, I'm mixing it though.
It's
with paint, and it will work in watercolor as well. All the color mixes will work in the watercolor as well as the acrylic. What?
It's Soylent Green, right?
Perry. It's just periwinkle.
No, it's Soylent Green.
I know. I'm so downplaying it. Like, I want people to come watch the video, but I'm like, hey, it's just periwinkle. We mix it with quinacridone, ultramarine, and white. I just spoiler.
But I mean, like 2022 is Soylent Green.
I feel like it should have been, but
no,
you
I
know.
mean in the book. That's when it was set.
Oh no. Well, not that far off, is it? All right, I'm going to get some more of my beautiful phthalo blue. So rich and gorgeous in its color. Make sure I get a nice little blue on the blue parts, right? You got to be blue on the blue parts.
Have to wonder how the folks over there at who makes the color of the year?
Pantone.
Pantone. They got to be sitting over there going, yeah, it's got to be green. There's no way we can't make it green.
But they didn't. They used no green.
Probably because it would have.
You're not catching me here, man. Like, they used no green. They just went periwinkle.
I know, but it's supposed to be green.
I'm going to take a little strong blue here to the front of the wing.
To be honest, I don't know what a periwinkle is.
Bring some feather type strokes. Oops, that one got a little away from me.
Is that a bird?
A
periwinkle.
No, it's a color. It's like a purple.
But where does it come from? What do you squeeze a periwinkle to get one?
No. I think it's maybe woad. I'm not sure. I don't remember when. I could get my Victoria Finlay book out. If you ever want to know the origin of colors and where they all come from, Victoria Finlay's The Story of the History of Color is like fantastic. We did a book club on it once in group.
Whoops. I think did I?
I'm going to continue strengthening this with a stronger glaze of blue. That's too much red. I'm going to glaze that down a little bit. There we go. Just a little pink of it. I like a little pink of it. I'm going to get back into my Payne's gray. I'm going to tap in just a little bit of color there. So sometimes an area will be wet and there'll be a little blooming. And if you're very new to painting, you might be inclined to panic. And I want to suggest to you that you don't panic.
Oh, there's a blue violet very close to periwinkle. And Linda says it's a flower.
Yeah. Okay, so it's also a flower. But is it periwinkle colored or is it just called periwinkle?
That's true.
That's what I don't know. So I've darkened the eye in here and I'm going to come in and get the feathers. And we'll define the eye with a little bit of our last lining. Where we come in and do a little of the acrylic. I'm going to break my own rule.
You're gonna mix media?
No, I don't have my detail brush over here for acrylic, so I may actually have you get it out of the bucket.
I can get it. Yeah, that way you don't
ruin a brush.
Yeah.
They don't grow on trees, no. Sometimes they do though. Robot squirrels grow them. I don't want the whole bucket. That'll be fine. Yeah. So I'm going to be using an acrylic brush to do the little bit of acrylic detailing when I get to it. I'm going to come forward on the wing. A little bit of gray. Sometimes you can even come in. I'm going to grab a little ultramarine just to kind of cool it in there.
And they said the periwinkle is periwinkle.
What?
The periwinkle is periwinkle.
Is it?
That's what they say.
All right. Well, then there it is. Look up that periwinkle flower. That's what it is. That's what we're making.
It's on the Pantone site.
It's on the Pantone site.
Maybe I'm misreading chat. You know what? I could be creating rumors that are not true.
Let's do misinformation. Well, we've already been flagged for rainbows, so like, what's next?
Blue
This
tits.
is not a rainbow. Just that was the hill for Facebook. You lie about anything you want, but not about rainbows. Mark
No.
Zuckerberg's having none of that. Poor man's got too much going on and no eyebrows, and he's like, you don't mess with my rainbows. Is he going into space?
Oh,
Any chance of that?
there's also periwinkle is an herb in the myrtle family.
Oh,
It's blue-violet in color.
adding a little bit of yellow there. It's kind of nice, just building up this bird, right?
What do you do with a myrtle herb?
I could not even tell you.
I imagine it's a smelling thing, or is it a flavor thing, or is it just a color thing? That's an interesting thing.
It's an interesting thing, and do we know what the thing is?
I
A
don't
little
know.
bit of
That's
gray
why I'm
towards the
asking
tip of the tail.
intertubes.
You're asking the intertubes.
They're telling me in chat, so I'm learning. Totally best reliable source is the Sherpettes to tell me all the things I need to know about.
Well, honestly, I do trust the Sherpettes. Though, if you're on Discord, no links. Nobody's allowed to accept links anymore.
Oh, Mary says Periwinkle is the dog on Blue's Clues. The dog's name was Periwinkle.
Okay, I fully cried when Steve came back and left that message.
That was awesome.
I did. I cried. I was like, because I did wonder what happened to him. I was like many parents, trapped with my children in Blue's Clues. My kids are like,
Where's Steve?
and I'm like, oh no, they Darren Steve.
It's like
You got to be a certain age to get that they Darren Steve, but they Darren Steve.
They did. They just. Bloop.
I mean, and like I purposely didn't Google it because I was like, maybe he's sick. I'm not up to finding out he's sick, so I didn't Google it.
I can't take any more bad news.
I was like, I just can't know what happened to him.
Childhood
I was
idols.
like, maybe he got like in trouble, or I don't know. Nowadays, you just don't want to find out what's happening with missing celebrities. So I was like, cried.
Yeah, they all cried too.
Mail. I still have that song in my head when I get the mail. Someday they need to do a study on the effects of these shows on adults. I'm just taking a little bit of extra red. I'm coming in and just adding a little extra little energy to the berries, right? A little extra berry energy. And you can even kind of do some open ones that are empty, a little sketchy, like distant berries. Have some fun with it. A little black to the back of that tail, just defining feathers as you go, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just kind of come in and you're like, oh, that needs a definition. Now, while this is all having a moment, we're going to get some white. Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
And put a tiny little drop out. This, if you haven't seen this and you're brand new to me, what am I doing? This is acrylic paint. I know, you can use it with a watercolor. This is titanium white fluid acrylic by Golden. There is a 2-ounce bottle. It'll last you a long time if you're just using it for detailing like this. It's super pigmented and already thinned, so it lets you do this type of work super easy. I kind of dampen my detail brush. I'm going to put my vision enhancers back on, just so I get good work done. Being able to see is half the battle.
So we'll
You think knowing is half the battle, but I think seeing is half the battle. Little bits of white there. I'm talking about it. There we go. It's got a little reflection, man. Sometimes I need a little reflection. A little in the corner. Reflection on the beak. Yeah, I could have frisked this out. You can, but I didn't. I'm going to add some little details, little feather details.
So Ashley, if you'd like to have a real chuckle, go look at the cover of the book, Soylent Green, and reread that to yourself.
If it's funny to you, it may not be funny to you given this year. We're all kind of struggling. I'm just adding a little detail to some of the feathers. Hmm.
I thought it was chilly here.
Wait, where's someone chillier?
Uh,
All right, let's add a little bit of kind of feathery fluff up here. I like to add a little fluffy up feathers that come down the tail.
I think this is Mima. Mima Suitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold here in Fargo. -8 feels like -34.
Ugh.
Good day to stay inside. I would say, yeah. It got to 13 here the other day, and I was like, no.
Yeah, you weren't having it. You were like, this isn't okay. This is in no way okay for me. I'm not loving it. He was not about it.
But
he was like, this is wrong.
I had layers, and I didn't have to do any snow blowing, so it wasn't totally like, I was just like, I'm super glad this is not a snow blowing day.
It's fun to kind of play with feathers and stuff and just kind of get that going. Get a little detailing in on these little moments. And then the last little fluff. All right, it looks like a toothbrush. It's not. It's part of the brush line that I designed. I don't know how much longer they'll be available on the market until I remake them. But it isn't a toothbrush. It's very stiff. Do I think, though, that you could take a very stiff toothbrush and make this work? Yes, I do. I knew. So either way is okay.
-20.
-20. That's not a temperature. That's hot. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna take this paint and I put it into the bristles and then I flick it and it gives snow. So Mr. Bird can be in snow. Just who doesn't like a little snow? Anyone living in 20-degree weather.
That's right.
Who doesn't like it?
Anyone above the rust belt?
Have I heard of David Sibley? Your artwork is right up there with his, and he is a master of bird artwork. I have not. Going to search it. Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret thing. It's not that secret. I was making noise about it. I'm thinking of doing the duck thing. Where you make duck art for the stamps?
Yep.
I don't expect to get through. I'm not even sure I'll get through the first
but it'll
filter.
Be fun. We'll bring attention. Everybody will be going and doing it. A whole bunch of
We can all
submissions.
raise money for stamps and ducks and wildlife, and
we can raise duck awareness.
Well, I think it's to the wetlands because that's one of the ways the parks and services raise money for like protecting these environments. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna look up David Sibley and I'm gonna look it up. And I really appreciate that. That's a dark-winged duck. That's a real big compliment. Ann Herbert, been with us a long time. I don't know. I'm really concerned now. I want to send her a coat. Oh my OMG, guys, it was -36 degrees Celsius with wind chill. It was about -45. You got to love Manitoba winter. Not going there in winter ever.
I wonder if
that's not winter. That's that place saying you don't live here.
Like if you did a Howard the Duck stamp.
No, there's rules. They just changed them. So they had changed the rules and then they changed them again. And I got to see what this year's rules are. Because for a while there, they said you had to have hunting gear in there, which is, I was going to do it earlier because it was sort of happening on TikTok and I was going to do it earlier. But then it was like, you got to have hunting gear. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm never going to be able to paint that. I can paint nature all day, but like guns and bullets and things, maybe a fishing hook. I don't know.
Howard standing on top of a hunter. That has hunting gear in it.
I mean, you can, the entries you can do like 6 entries. So I guess we could do a silly entry too. I don't know.
You could have Darkwing throwing a
I don't really want to offend them though, because I want to have half a chance. I want to show you guys what that process is. Again, I don't know that I'll get through, but I'm thinking about doing it. And Kim's like, do all the wildlife.
Where is Manitoba? Manitoba is where the cold is.
Yeah, it's where all the cold is. And oh my goodness.
Just when you think you've gone north, go farther.
I'm going to sign. I actually dipped the water-soluble pencil in water to get this effect.
That's why I went over to zoom on it so they could see that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I do that. It's weird. It's a weird thing I do.
It's a thing.
Oh my gosh, guys, I missed you. We kind of spent a little extra time than we needed to for a watercolor together, step by step. But we're going to be back Wednesday next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. If you want to also do acrylic.
Duck channel.
Huh?
Same duck channel.
Same duck channel, same
I
duck
am
time,
the
same duck channel.
Darkness
And
that traps in
oh,
the
you know
night.
what?
No.
What I can do is you can enter in different media, so I can do watercolor and acrylic.
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh. So we could do watercolor and acrylic. And I can't make it a lesson until after the judging is over because there's rules around it.
Mm,
But if I don't get in, bonus to you, it becomes a lesson.
that's true.
So maybe we'll do both. That'll be interesting. All right. Thursday, mix some color. Saturday, paint a really cool snow scene with rain. So it's like it snowed and then it rained and you're looking at it through your window and it's like amazing. It's the coolest scene. You're going to love it. See me there, please, because I missed you. And we've just got so much fun art planned this year.
Mm.
And you guys, you know what I'm going to say next, but say it with me. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.